This week, the focus continues on trying to solve the problem with rep number 2. And so the business owner and I went through further looking at the sales figures, the clients, where his clients have come from, and how many of them are new clients that he's brought in, how many were clients that were handed to him, and just to get a bit of a feel for whether or not he's actually already demonstrated the capacity to bring new clients into the business, so that we can work out where we're at with that, whether or not we're going to have to provide training, or just to give us a bit of a strategy as to how we're going to deal with the fact that rep number 2 needs more clients to justify being rep number 2. So that's in progress. The business owner is planning to sit down with him this week and have the discussion about how we're going to move things forward in a constructive way. It's an interesting scenario as well. This rep 2 is an older gentleman, sort of has that vibe that he's kind of comfortable with where he's at in life, and which is part of the reason why we're having some of these challenges with getting him to change his ways, I think. So anyway, we basically agreed we have to do something has to change. With that being said, the figures overall for the business are moving in the right direction, but just for the amount for what's going into providing this resource, this secondary sales rep, who is half of the dedicated sales force of the business. The business is not getting proper value out of that, and that needs to change. So that's in progress. That's going to be an interesting one to see how it plays out. It's probably going to be a little awkward, but we're going to try and give it the best shot we can, and try and do the right thing by everybody, of course. Then I also got a chance to catch up with our general manager, who's kind of not really the general manager, and we're looking at the organisational chart. The business is in flux, which it should be because we're growing it, but part of the things that have been holding the business back were that some of it was not quite right people, and some of it was not having clarity around who's doing what, clarity around roles, and clarity around what the structure actually looks like. And so I sat with the GM, who's not really the GM. He was brought in. He actually started in the business as a driver, but he bought he's one of the ones who has a lot of retail management experience. And he was kind of positioned to move into a GM role. He never really took ownership of the position of GM. So it's partly, his choice that role never really evolved, but it's also a bit of a function of the fact that we've got a family business with several family members, and one of those family members is the eldest son, who was always being groomed to be the general manager, and he's now becoming quite a competent business person. And so the need for that general manager role is now getting closer to being filled by the oldest son, which puts our previous supposed general manager in a bit of an awkward position, where we kind of have to renegotiate his position within the structure, because he's capable, he has really good people management experience, he's got business management experience, he understands the financials, he understands inventory management, he understands the importance of making a profit and running a business efficiently, he understands the importance of having the right processes for people to be able to do that. And he's generally a pretty decent guy, and he gets along well with the team, and he fits in well with the culture of the team. So it would be a shame to lose him. So what I spent time with him today, and have had a couple of sessions similar to this, about what his role's going to become, and also, and what that role's becoming is really honestly nothing like what he had envisioned his role would become in the business, certainly not in the short term. In the longer term, I see him pretty much always as a 2IC, to a degree an advisor on on key decisions to the eldest son as he moves into the general manager's role. So with the way that the organisational structure is playing out at the moment, the role that we're looking at moving the GM towards the original GM towards is more around managing the apparel and production side of the business and some of the human resources functions. And he was open in sharing with me that that's obviously not where he really wants to be in the long term, but he understands that we've got a business here that we're in the process of taking from a 3 million a year turnover with the goal of taking that to 10. And right now we're just in the early stages of that transition, and as things progress, as the quality of the business processes improves, as we get more clarity in the structure, and as we get more of the right people within the right roles in the business, it's going to become easier for him to operate at a more senior level and contribute at a higher level to the business moving forward. And it's also going to create opportunities for him to increase his income as the business grows, and if he can be recognised as someone who's contributing to that growth, then obviously it makes sense that you would want to also financially reward him for that as well. So he understands that bigger picture. For the time being, he is happy to continue to just chip in and do whatever needs to be done, which is terrific. It's a great attitude. So with that in mind, part of making his life a bit easier, because at the moment wherever we've got a gap in the business, we had 2 people away today and he was filling both of their roles as well as doing his own daily activities. So he's a good guy, he's trying to do the right thing, but there's lots of distractions going on as we smooth this out and plug people into the right places in the business. But what we do have, we are advertising for another position at the moment. So the industrial specialist that we've hired, he seems to be still settling in. He's taking over a lot of the warehouse management side of things as well, which is good. But one of the next role that we're looking to fill within the business is on the embroidery side of the business. And we're looking at acquiring a new machine so that we can expand that side of the business. And we need another person to operate that and really to take responsibility for the day-to-day running and scheduling of the embroidery side of things. So I sat with the former GM, who's now known as the apparel and process manager for the time being. It's not an ideal role description, but it certainly reflects what we need him focused on for the short term. So it's going to be his new role, and the embroidery side of the business actually reports to him. So in an effort to lighten his load and to support him in keeping him happy within the business, we've defined, I sat with him and defined what he actually wants from this new embroidery role, because he's doing a lot of the fidgety stuff that really should be done by somebody in that position, and that's taking him away from doing some of the other more important work that he should be doing. So we've defined that role today, which is good because we're already advertising, and so when we do hire someone, we'll be able to bring them straight into that role and give them clarity around what's expected on a day-to-day basis. So that was good progress. So there's a lot involved. We're on this journey of taking this business from 3 million a year turnover to 10 million a year turnover, and a lot of people would just say, well, easy, just improve your marketing and sales pipeline, generate more sales. But there's so much involved in actually delivering $10 million worth of value to the market every year. It's complicated enough for them already just doing 3. That having been said, with the numbers that we're looking at, so we only launched the new sales initiatives, sales improvement processes at the beginning, only about 5 months ago, and we're already tracking to have pushed the turnover. So with the turnover that we've seen generated in the last 3 months pretty consistently, it looks like we're already starting to track the business up towards around 4.5 to 5 million a year, which is pretty good in such a short period of time. But that's now also starting to put pressure back on operationally. So everybody was saying how busy they've been, which is great because what we're doing is working, but it's also bringing more pressure to the day-to-day activities of the team. So there's a lot of, the average small business does something around 300 or 400 different little tasks on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. And if you would, and they were already, they do what they do well, but it wasn't super smooth even when I started working with them. So one of the worst things you can do is grow a business quickly but not grow the back-end systems and processes and the roles and the structure that supports it all, because if you do that, you just end up disappointing your customers because you can't handle the load. We're looking at tripling the output of the business, and that means a lot more work's got to flow through. So there's a lot to it, to growing a business that way and to scale it. All of the infrastructure that sits within that business needs to come along with it, as well as the sales and marketing processes, which is why I'm going into in these posts, in these vlogs, there's so much detail on what's actually happening, which was really the point of it, to give you an insight as to what it actually takes to get a business to grow successfully and to sustain that growth and still have the business function well. And in fact, a big goal of this is for us to be able, for the business owner to be able to remove himself from the majority of the day-to-day activities. Our goal is that within 6 months, the owner of the business will only be required to operate within the business 10 hours a week. And I think that's going to be really achievable. We've got some important things that need to happen to get us there, but based on the progress that we've seen so far, I think that's realistically achievable. And I will update you in the next one.